And now, here's Popcorn Talks Meet the Movie Press.
This is Meet the Movie Press with an echo. My name is Simon Thompson. It is April the 12th, 2019. You can find me on social media at Showbiz Simon on Twitter and Instagram. There's a Facebook page, This is Simon Thompson, where you can see me posting from all of my work around the world. What a big week. Welcome back, Scott Menzel.
Hello.
Welcome back, Kit. For those people who don't know who you are, Scott, who are you? Where can we find you?
I'm just the guy.
Oh,
I'm just
not
the guy.
just the guy. You're the guy.
Hello, I'm Scott Menzel, founder of We Live Entertainment, as well as the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society. I am back. I've been gone for, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. I've been traveling the world.
You have?
Yes.
Like Dora the Explorer.
Yes.
But with a beard. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And no monkey.
And that is bad.
Actually, he does have a monkey.
Kit, who are you? Where can we find you, please?
Hi, Kit Bowen. I'm editor for Screen Picks, freelance for Fandango, Rotten Tomatoes, and you can find me on Twitter at The Movie Kit, which is who I am. I am The Movie Kit.
You are the Movie Kit. Welcome back. Always great to have you on a panel. Always a very popular member of the panel. And we appreciate your time. And thank you also to those people today who are watching this show live, including special shout out to Senor Nerd. Regularly takes part in the chat here. Quote unquote, not bothering watching the Star Wars live stream. I just want the title and the trailer and I am good. Senor Nerd is prioritizing us over Star Wars Episode 12-teen. The thing in space,
yes,
which is great.
Yes,
I really appreciate it.
Right.
So during the show, we are probably going to have the trailer for episode 12T, which is great, and possibly the name. So we're going to be talking about that. We obviously don't know that at the moment. That is, nobody knows that apart from Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a handful
And the
of other
director.
people. And the director.
Yeah.
Although, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that they know. So maybe they were just given a word to put into the movie at some point. If you want to take part in the show, obviously you guys are a really big part of that. Take part in the chat. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we really appreciate that because without you, we wouldn't have a show and we'd just be talking to ourselves. Okay, so let's talk about Star Wars Celebration first of all. A lot of big Disney news as we're getting a lot in the industry right now, especially post-takeover. Let's talk about Star Wars Celebration, that really big event. A lot of people from the industry are in Chicago right now. The big things we're looking for are obviously probably the top two are the name of the movie, Closely Guarded Secret, and the trailer. Off the back of The Last Jedi, there are some fans who are still a little bit burnt by the franchise. Do you think it's inevitable that we're going to get some sort of troll back, whatever the title is?
Oh, of course. I mean, the title itself, everyone's always going to criticize it, I feel. Like, that happened with every single Star Wars movie, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't think The Last Jedi was that bad of a title. It was just not a great movie. It was just not that bad of a title.
Oh, you've invoked the TLJ. Oh, here we go. Yeah.
But I, with J.J. Abrams coming back to this, I think people responded much better to The Force Awakens than they did The Last Jedi.
Yep.
So I think there's, in J.J. we trust, as a lot of fans say, I think that's going to kind of give this movie a little bit more of a boost.
I think so. I mean, a lot of people, everybody has their ideas about what the movie is going to be called, and these things are almost impossible to predict. There are people who literally scour through canon and non-canon materials, going through, trying to find something, and this happens with other things like Bond and obviously not Harry Potter because the title's out there, but, IPs looking for something that they think is going to happen. There's all the thing about, they registered this domain name or whatever happens. People are asking, Zeno was saying, a final prediction for the episode title. I honestly have no idea with this. I would be very surprised if the word rebel is not in there.
Rebel Endgame.
Episode 12-2.
It's not the end game, though.
No, but we know it's
It's not the end game for the other one either, but...
No, but it might be the end game for the Avengers as we know them now.
Until they reboot them.
Do you think it's fair to say that I think rebel is going to be in the title somewhere?
I
think
think
so.
Rebel would be a good
I think so.
That would be a good
We've not
guess.
seen that used in anything to date.
No.
And we've obviously had Empire, we've had Jedi a couple of times. We haven't had Rebel, so I would be expecting that Rebel would be in there somewhere. I could be horribly wrong, but I'm kind of thinking that's what's going to be. This, whether you love Last Jedi or hate Last Jedi, how are you feeling about saying goodbye to these characters that we've met in the last couple of movies that we've been introduced to? And a lot of people have formed a very close association with, akin to the likes of Skywalker, Solo, and Leia.
I'm not going to be that upset.
Okay.
I mean, I do love Star Wars. I'm a bigger Star Trek fan, so there you go.
Yeah.
But I've never really felt any close connection to any of these new characters.
Okay.
I really did love Kylo Ren in the first one, and I thought, okay, he maybe is the one that I'm gonna, kind of feel akin to. And then the second one, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
But Ray is good too, but I don't.
They
I'm
just
not that.
they lack the natural chemistry that the original cast had.
Which is always difficult to replicate.
Yes.
Whichever IP you take, and you put new people in roles that are trying to replicate something you had before.
And it's very strange to me because I've watched The Force Awakens multiple times in the theater. And I mean, by the time I got to the third time, I was just like, I don't ever want to see this movie again. Like, I felt that way. And it's just the relationships, like, they just don't have natural chemistry. And then in the second one, like, it's like they almost realized it was Finn and Ray in the first one. And, like, their chemistry sucked. And then they had I forgot the lady's name, who was in the second movie, Last Jedi, where they tried to pair Finn up with again. And their relationship, like, didn't come off as natural either.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with these movies, is that they're so relationship heavy and they just don't connect. I just don't connect to them like I did in the original ones.
But also, I think the early Star Wars movies, the original Star Wars movies, they were quite relationship heavy.
Yes, but they worked for some reason.
Yeah, and I was talking to Rob Reiner about this today, last night actually, when Harry Met Sally 30th anniversary showing at the opening of the TCM festival here. Yeah, talking to Rob, I call him Rob.
As you do.
But yeah, we were talking about chemistry, why sometimes it is almost impossible to replicate, whether it's the same people, because we talked about a When Harry Met Sally sequel that never happened, and obviously the fact that they considered making something similar. And it's like, nobody knows. Nobody knows. If you try and replicate relationships, either with the same people, there is no guarantee that you can capture that lightning in a jar again.
Right.
But also, I think the natural thing, the difference between the movies that we've had in the last couple of years and the original movies, is the fact that when they made the original movies, the original Star Wars, they had no idea. There was no pressure to have these relationships that work, because it was
100%.
something that was completely new at the time. But now, I think when you try to manufacture chemistry and try to manufacture a relationship when you know you've had that in the past, it is a lot more difficult. And that's not to condemn them for failing to do that in some aspects. But I think now we've moved on to a slightly different thing where it's about, yes, chemistry is a factor, but really it's about creating these characters that people feel they connect with, rather than the characters connecting with themselves as much.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just my take on it. I'm sure there are people who are much bigger Star Wars fans who would say horribly wrong, and I expect some trolling for that.
But
that's just my take.
And I think
it's true.
And I think, I mean, I'm curious if you guys agree. Like, to me, the strongest standouts in these movies have been the robot characters.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because it's like the movie is centered around most of the human characters, and yet, or whatever world they're from, but we're supposed to connect with them.
Yeah.
And I feel like in every one of these movies, the only thing that everyone talks about at the end of the day is the robot characters. Oh, BB-8 was great.
BB-8. Then there was obviously the character that was in Rogue One. There was Phoebe Waller-Bridges in The Last Jedi, which even people who didn't like Last Jedi, actually, many people really liked her, or at least quite liked her. I think that's a really good point, actually, whereas before these were... And I think this is following on from the Jar Jar Binks thing, where it's like, let's create something we can merchandise.
Right.
Rather than let's create something great that we might be able to merchandise and cash in on. Because again, going back to the original Star Wars movies, they didn't have the toys out in time for the movie. They let the movie breathe and develop. People connect with the characters and connect with the movies and talk about the movies. Then the toys came.
Because they also didn't think that the original movie was going to do well.
Oh no.
No, that's true.
So essentially, when they created this kind of like this franchise, and then it just become more and more corporate involved. I mean, and that's what this is. I mean, the Star Wars right now is on the same level, I think, of like Marvel, where I think it's just like, we're gonna milk this cow as long as we can, and we're gonna do everything we can with it. The fact that, one of the big things that's going to come out of the Star Wars celebration is about the Disneyland park with the Star Wars land, and then also the one that's going to open in Florida. That's all this is about at this point, and the reason they're so concerned is because the reaction to all the backlash from Last Jedi, and then we had the Han Solo movie, which was fine, but like essentially there's so much backlash between these movies that like they're trying to figure out, okay, how can we keep this up? And then they're talking about Disney Plus, which we'll get into later, and then the theme park's the way to go. I mean, the theme park's the way to go because it's guaranteed money in their pocket no matter what.
Yeah, but they're not going to stop making these movies.
No, of course not.
Maybe they'll take a breather now and figure out what they really want to do next.
Well, I was going to say, picking up on what you've just said and what Scott said about it getting too big, do you think this universe has got too big? Are they stretching it too far? And is that, I mean, Scott, if you've got a thought
I'm not huge into Star Wars. I'm just going to be completely transparent about that. What I know that a lot of diehard Star Wars fans are problematic about these new movies is the fact that there's so much source material that they're not using from comic books and all this stuff that they have.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to kind of recreate the essence of the first, the original saga.
Yeah.
So, like, essentially, I think a lot of people are starting to have backlash towards that because they want to see all these other stories that are there, and they're so important to fans.
Which we've seen explored in things like Clone Wars,
Right.
the animated series, and fans are frustrated, I know, for seeing, why don't you pick up this from Clone Wars, or the animated,
Yes.
do this, and also I know you are right. I mean, I know a lot of people who have, of our age, people who had kids, and they're now, they found Star Wars, and they're getting into the world, and they do read these books, canon or not canon, and they do want these characters brought to life. And that might be the future of what we're seeing.
And the other thing that I just want to say real quick is that, when Star Wars came out, the originals, it was very unique to the time. It was something that stood out. Nowadays, we're loaded up with all these sci-fi movies, all these action movies, Marvel Universe, DC Universe. There's Harry Potter. There's a lot to choose from. So I think the bar has been raised in a lot of ways to make the movies better and the characters better and the special effects better. Like everything is elevated now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I don't know if Disney's focusing on that much. They're just so worried about, like, we have this property now, let's make movies instead of worrying about the quality. I would say that the Star Wars movies, and Disney has done so many great things over the last couple of years. I would say that the Star Wars is very weak on their slate every year. I feel like they're some of the weaker films.
I just think that they've been running off the nostalgia of Star Wars.
Yes.
They have not been really forward thinking in the whole
Really
universe.
putting their balls on the table
Exactly.
and going, this is
the only
Wars.
reason why Force Awakens is because Han Solo was back. You know what I mean? And Chewie and then in Last Jedi, you had Mark Hamill. It's like that's what people are waiting for. That's what they want.
Right.
So they're banking off of the nostalgia without really digging deep and creating new characters that we want to keep seeing, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I think
I hope they take a break and figure
me
stuff
too.
out.
People in the chat have a lot of thoughts on this. Zeno Hour saying The Last Jedi is way better than The Force Awakens. Go ahead, at me, you cowards. Rumor title for Episode 9 is Will of the Force, coming from Senor Nerd. Goldman Vision, Star Wars at Episode 9, just buy an effing ticket and shut up.
Yes.
Zeno Hour, Knights of Ren, interesting. And Goldman's vision, Star Wars smells like rebel spirit. Jenna James, I'm watching the Collider live stream reaction along with you guys on my phone and TV. Then Jenna, go to Collider and say that you're watching Meet the Movie Press at Popcorn Tour Network along with you guys on my iPhone and TV. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support of the show and us. Zeno Hour, I don't connect with the new characters in The Force Awakens. I like Rey and Kylo in the Last Jedi. The new Jedi would be fun. Goldman Vision, it actually does feel like the three heroes are in different films. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Zeno Hour, Rose is the character that you were talking about, had the romance, which that's a whole horrible other story that happened after that.
Yes.
Zeno Hour, Scott is right. And BlackRock 316 saying, wow, just thinking about it, Scott is right. Absolutely.
He just is.
I agree. He's a very wise man. Jenna James, I feel the same way Harloff, Ken, Knapsack, and Dan Morell feel about the genre as of now. Not quite sure what their thoughts are on it, but it's good to hear. Jack Dennis, The Last Jedi was where the characters should have come together and formed a relationship as a team. They tore them apart in 3 different directions, only for Poe and Rey to finally meet at the end. I think you're right.
Yes.
They're better together. Xeno Hour, I still think Rogue One is one of the best new movies.
I agree.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Totally
It's the best one, no doubt.
And Jodie Petrella, hello Simon, hello Jodie. When you do the Thursday night preview totals, can you include the after movie? I would really like to know how it did. Do you, Jodie? Do you really?
Oh, no, it looks sexy.
I don't like delivering bad news.
Oh,
It's not too bad. Jenna James, I just find it funny how people think Feig would even want to deal with fans like the fandom dudes chilling in paradise. Yep. Solo bombed because, says Jack Dennis. I think Jack wants us to finish that sentence.
With the below, TG.
Ah, okay, right.
The
Okay.
Last Jedi.
Jack Dennis, why would Solo bomb if not for Star Wars fatigue? Solo is actually a good movie, but came out 5 months after The Last Jedi. No coincidence. A lot of the reason that Solo bombed, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of problems with Solo. I actually quite enjoyed it. A lot of people were just weren't seeing it out of bloody mindedness as a direct reaction to The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of reactions on social media where people are going, oh, fuck, I'll watch it. And they watch it and they go, oh, that wasn't bad. I liked it.
We talked about this before.
We have, yeah.
The reason why I think there was I agree with The Last Jedi, but also we talked about this, the Phil Lord and Chris Miller being kicked off and Ron Howard being replaced. I think that had a big thing to do with it, just like the first Ant-Man movie when Edgar Wright was taken off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are very loyal to certain people.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they're taking off something, people will refuse to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I enjoyed it.
So did I.
And I've watched it on planes and stuff since, and it's, it's a fun movie.
It's
It's better than The Last Jedi.
It's better. I think.
I think it is.
I mean, sue me, but I quite enjoyed The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people had problems with that, but.
I liked parts of it. And I liked parts of Solo. I liked Rogue One more as a cohesive.
Rogue One much more as a coherent movie.
But, I mean, they're not bad movies by any stretch. I mean, they're certainly, they tap right on into that whole Star Wars,
And we see a lot of bad movies, so we know the difference between something that you're upset about in a franchise that doesn't quite nail what you want it to nail, and a movie that is a genuinely bad movie.
But I mean, the true diehard fans are the ones.
Yeah, I was going to say we're not as close to it as some other people. Okay, we're going to be talking Star Wars again later on, obviously, because we're going to have hopefully the title reveal during the show, and hopefully we're going to do some trailer reaction live on the show as well. But let's move on to another Disney product, the Lion King trailer. Let's talk about this briefly. First full trailer for this movie. I'll be honest with you, I love The Lion King. I've seen the musical. I love the original movie. I remember when it came out in theaters. I remember going to see it opening night. I'm intrigued and I'm looking forward to the movie, but it really hasn't got me in the feels as much as some other people. And I honestly don't think it's because I'm jaded or anything else. We had this discussion at breakfast this morning. Because it's another Jon Favreau movie, this magic that we're seeing in The Lion King, we've already seen in The Jungle Book, which blew us away because it was something new. And it's still as equally impressive. I mean, it's technologically a marvel, but that thing has lost a little bit. That said, and I said this at breakfast as well, when I saw the Jungle Book trailer, I wasn't blown away with that, and then I loved the movie. So discuss, guys.
I loved the trailer. I mean, but I did read on Twitter, and it makes sense. It's definitely a live action movie, but really it is still just a differently animated movie. But like I was saying to you guys this morning, that the little cute lion face, I'm all in. And my son, this is a quick story. My son was watched.
Who is an adult?
He is an adult now. He's 26 now, but when he was 2, he watched The Lion King over and over and over and over and over and over again. And we were always afraid that tape would break, and then we didn't know what we were going to do. So his reaction to this trailer was major thumbs up. He goes, Mom, you're taking me to this screening, right? I get to go to this one. I said, yes. So, from a longtime fan, as a kid, he's really into it. So,
I mean, I think I mean, I think a lot of us had a deep connection to The Lion King.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like these next couple live action movies that it just so happened to be coming out back to back. Like, I loved Aladdin and I love Lion King. You know, and it's kind of funny because I actually remember when I saw that movie in the theater too, and it was at the time where the nice men on the street would sell the bootleg VHS tapes.
Yep.
And we always went down to Atlantic City every weekend, and I would go to the movie the Friday of, and then on Saturday and Sunday, if I really loved it, I would go to the guy on the corner and buy the bootleg of it. Oh, the good old days.
Piracy.
Yeah. You know, hey,
You don't have pirates like you used to, do you?
Right. But the reality is that, you know, we've kind of
Mufasa.
we've seen a lot of these movies now where they've, you know, turned a classic into a live action movie. You know, and I think Jungle Book, even though it is a classic in its own right, it's not as fresh in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And I think, like, when I saw the footage and I went to a special event for that, you know, I was kind of blown away by the actual footage of it. I didn't think the movie itself, I was kind of like, I'm still not sure about this movie, but the footage looks great. When I watched the Lion King trailer, it just felt very much the same as the animated film.
Yeah.
And because we saw the visuals done before, it just didn't do anything for me. I think we're getting, at least me personally, I won't speak for the panel, but for me personally, it's kind of hard nowadays to be blown away by something with visuals. I feel like the bar has been set so high, and we keep, you know, technology keeps evolving, that I just don't feel like wowed by a lot of visuals anymore. You know, everything looks gorgeous. You know, like, I mean, like a movie, Missing Link looks gorgeous. Like, there's just certain things. It's just, but that's all I can take away from that trailer.
Yeah.
Is that it looks like the Jungle Book, but it's Lion King. You know, there's nothing else, and it does, like the Aladdin trailer. I think a lot of people have commented on this. Like, Aladdin, like, it shows some of the differences, and it actually shows, like, the music and some of the better stuff.
Yeah.
And this one is just so much like, oh, look at the visual landscape.
Well,
we're gonna pull back, and oh, here's the little, you know, like the
The
paw and stuff like
epicity
that.
of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
But they'll release a trailer
I
next
know,
with music
I
in
know.
it, just like they did with that. Because that first Aladdin trailer is like, and then they released the one with some of the music, and you're like, oh.
And that's
okay,
when
I
it
get
kicks in, right?
Yeah,
Like when the whole new
sure.
world comes on in the Aladdin trailer, you're like, okay, I'm sold now.
Well,
but
also-
before this, no.
But if you look at if you compare the Jungle Book trailer and the Lion King trailer, obviously the Lion King trailer, they're different movies, different things, but both at the end with a very familiar song from the soundtrack.
Yes.
Hakuna Matata for, sorry, it is Hakuna Matata,
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
at the end of the Lion King,
Yeah.
and Bare Necessities
Necessities.
at the end of the Jungle Book. And I was like, huh, I see
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Actually,
Come
at
for the
end of this-
visuals, stay for the songs.
Yeah.
Or
At
the
the
other
end
way
of
around.
this trailer, it was Pumbaa and Timon going,
Yeah.
in the jungle,
Yeah.
the mighty. Yeah, so you know what? The other thing I'm kind of excited about is the vocal talent behind this.
Yes.
Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner are going to be hilarious as
I hope
Timon
so.
and Pumbaa.
I hope so,
think.
too.
I really hope so,
Donald
because
Glover will probably be really good.
I
as
think they'll be
Simba.
good, but the danger is that it was so good in the original that if it isn't as good or better,
Yeah.
it's going to be noticeable, and
Yes,
that's
it is.
it's
Yes.
a big. I'm glad that people take big risks like this.
Yes.
but it needs to pay off. Otherwise, it can be very, very detrimental because people are inevitably going to compare the two.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's inevitable that people are going to do that. And you know you're going to have lots of think pieces on. People did think pieces on shot by shot, you know, trailer comparing and stuff. So you're going to get that. So it really has to be over and above, I think, with what's happening.
I
with that.
also think, you know, just because we're on this topic real quick, I think the real criticism behind Aladdin
Yeah.
right now is really just Will Smith. I mean, I think that's the bulk of the criticism.
I think so.
You know, because you have such an iconic character that Robin Williams brought to life.
Yeah.
And then you replace it with Will Smith. And I'm sorry, they're not anything alike. And I don't know. It doesn't fit in naturally. It just something
again,
feels off about it.
Robin Williams' interpretation of the genie, and we discussed this before, is so completely unique.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of a kind. It's always going to be difficult to step into those curved-ended shoes.
I know.
A lot of people in the chat, don't forget, if you are watching the show live every week or listening to it live, you can actually do that on YouTube and you can take part in the chat. Really important part of the show. We appreciate it. If you want to follow us on social media, we're at Meet Movie Press on Twitter. Please do. We would love to have conversations with you online. Really appreciate it. Although you don't have to at us in every single thing you do with movies. Because we get a lot of notifications. So I'm just saying. Not everything to do with the movie. Spread it out a little bit. On Lion King, Jenna James, I love the recent trailer. DC Patience, I'll take my kid, definitely. Lion King, Simba was so cute.
Cute.
Very cute. Jenna James, I really think it may make more money than Endgame, but we'll see. I would be very surprised if it does, but I think we're going to see $1 billion for this.
Yeah.
I think Endgame is going to walk $1 billion within 10 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very easily. I mean, the box office we discussed last week, it's looking at making $800 million worldwide, within its first couple of days.
I believe that.
So I think
believe
it's
it.
going to walk $1 billion easily in 10 days.
Oh, yeah.
I'm honestly, I'd put money on that. Doesn't put money on that. Carney Egan saying, I enjoyed the trailer, Lion King we're talking about, but why does Scar look like he's a sick lion instead of a menacing rival like he was in the cartoon? Cutbacks, mate.
Yeah.
Cutbacks. Spending more on Marvel. Cutbacks. Got a
Star
mangy
Wars
line.
budget.
For this one.
Sorry.
Star
Making
Wars.
up- yeah.
It's mangy.
Jack Dennis, the colours were more muted than I would have thought. Looks more David Yates than Favreau's own work. Colours aside, it's very much The Lion King, and that's never a bad thing. If you actually, interesting on that, if you look at the palette of Favreau's Jungle Book, that is also, there are moments of great light and exposure, but also there are a lot of moments in that are darker, have a lot of richer greens, richer blacks, richer browns. It's not actually as light as you might think. There are a few scenes that are particularly light, but those tones are quite dark and heavy as well. It's something that Favreau, in a lot of his really good movies, he actually embraces. So it's interesting to see. Yes, John Oliver as Zazu is genius. Very, very much looking to see more of that. Jacob Bradley, The Lion King looks kinda off. DC Patience heard John Oliver was awesome. Jacob Bradley, this movie is lacking some pop. I don't know whether you mean pizzazz or whether you mean actual music pop. Jenna James, love Oliver's dissection of the WWE Vince a couple of weeks ago. Jack Dennis, I really hope that you keep the hard-hitting title sound at the beginning of the movie. Know what I mean? Boom, the end. Always very powerful. A lot of people talking about Lion King. Zeno, our Lion King trailer looked good, but it seems like a shot-for-shot remake. Not sure about that. Do you know what? On the shot-for-shot thing, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, I think. Guys, thoughts on shot-for-shot remakes?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to do that. I mean, I guess it depends on the movie and whether or not you really want to see an actual, exact replica of what you watched before. But I appreciate a remake that does something slightly different.
Yeah, it's lazy. I remember the first one that stands out, of course, is Psycho.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that, and I'm kind of like, why was this made? And the thing is that's the question. If you're not going to do something unique with it, I know technology has gotten better and you can, up the ante with the visuals. But again, if you're not going to do something for the story or the character, then why touch it?
Yeah,
Why touch it?
I think you're damned if you do. If you do shot for shot, people can, like you say, it's a bit lazy. If you mess with it, people are like, "Why did you mess with it?" There's nothing wrong with the original. So I don't think we're ever going to find a middle ground on that. I mean, I'm kind of like, just show me what you've got.
Yeah.
As long as you bring something new to the table,
That's what I said.
I'm
yeah.
absolutely happy, and I don't mind whether it's the rest of it is shot for shot, but you bring some different flavor or different vibe. That's great. But I just want to do what you want to do. Give me your vision of this. And if that's shot for shot with embezzlement in sort of additions, great.
Yeah.
If it's not, then let's be honest about it. Also, people are saying, Beyonce is apparently going to do a new song for The Lion King. All the single lions, all the single lions, all the single lions. Who runs the world? Lions! Who runs the world? Lions! I think it won't be either of those. Okay, let's talk about... That's all I got. There's the two...
That's it?
Two Beyonce
That's
songs
all
I know.
got,
That's it.
all
That's
I got.
Queen Bey.
for all your hit Lion King Beyonce news. Meet the Movie Press every Friday.
But those were very
on-
funny, though, I think.
Thank
Very,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. I'll take
Yeah,
that.
it was good.
Thank you. I'll take it. Disney Plus. Let's move on to that, guys.
Sure.
It's very Disney heavy this week. Apologise if you're a Disney hater. It's the House of Mouse, because obviously we're paid by Disney. No, we're not. Not a single cent. Disney Plus, really big news this week. A lot of speculation over the last couple of months about this platform, Disney's Netflix. We now have more of an idea about what they're going to do, what they're going to launch, and the price. Let's talk about the price first of all. $6.99.
Undercutting Netflix.
Undercutting Netflix, who've just put their prices up. Thanks for the email, Netflix. $6.99 is less than we predicted it would be. We thought it would be under $10. $9.99.
Yep.
$6.99 is almost irresistible.
Is
Yep.
it?
Almost irresistible.
Is it?
I
It
think
is.
it
It
is,
is.
especially looking at what they're
Someone
offering.
posted
Scott.
this on Twitter today. Every Star Wars movie, every Pixar movie, every Disney movie, every episode of The Simpsons, and then the list just kept going. And I was just like, there you go.
Yeah.
Done. And not to mention all the original program that they just announced.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
original
Well,
movies and stuff like
That's
that.
the thing that's going to draw me in because, it's okay to have Disney at my fingertips at some point if I wanted to watch The Lion
But you have
King.
to think about on this aspect, kid, you have to think about the family aspect.
True.
Because what this is going to be is that Netflix is more for the person who wants the hodgepodge
Yeah.
of stuff. This is going to be for the families.
Yeah.
And families, Disney knows that marketplace. And then when you have the fanboys adding into that with the Marvel and the Star Wars, and then whoever, all the other franchises they bought from Fox.
No, I get it. I'm not saying I don't get it, but the family thing is definitely a
The
big
family.
plus.
Yeah.
Because, when like I said, when I was, raising my 2 young kids, we had all the tapes.
Yeah.
So now if you have an entire, streaming network that you can just flip on at any point and the kids can watch all this stuff, then yeah.
I mean,
big draw.
I'm really excited, but I think also for an industry point of view, I mean, the breadth of content that's going to be available, even The Simpsons, which I stopped watching a long time ago, it's
me
at
too.
record low audiences at the moment, like less than 1.5 million watched last week's episode. They've maxed out on their syndication. They had to stop producing the DVDs because the market fell out of that. Syndication has they've sold to everybody who wants it in all the different territories. So I didn't know if it would be on there. I mean, one of our listeners, viewers, mentioned this too on Twitter this morning, going, "Ha! You were wrong. The Simpsons are on it." We're wrong sometimes. That's absolutely fine. But there is nowhere else for The Simpsons to go.
Right.
They've explored all their opportunities, so it does make sense. But $6.99, and if you look at what Netflix are charging, both are creating a hell of a lot of original content. It's going to be interesting to see how Netflix continue to justify their higher price point when Disney are doing the same thing. Okay, they're a bigger machine when it comes to production, so they can do that. Whether they lower the price, Netflix, bring it back to $9.99 or $7.99, or look at a pricing plan in there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They might. But, Netflix seems to be also just continuing to, branch out. I'm sure we'll probably end up talking about them buying this major theater in Hollywood. Clearly they are moving towards, because of all the flack, I think they're moving more towards the theatrical as well with all the movies that they're doing. I don't know. I think Netflix right now justifies even the slight,
Netflix,
price
I
rise
agree.
that it's doing because there's just so much on there.
Well, I mean, I wasn't a subscriber to Hulu. We had it for a while. My wife wanted to watch Handmaid's Tale, so we got it free for 30 days, and she binged that. But then I got it with my T-Mobile service. I got it for or Spotify. I got it for an extra $3 a month, and I was like, okay, for $3 a month, I'll have it. Now I get it completely free with my Spotify. Right. With $6.99, I think that's a price point that people are going to just throw that out there anyway.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of content that you've got, and I think it's the heritage, and even if people don't watch it, especially, but when it's so low, it's like less than a price of coffee in LA. Generally, why not? It's like 1 cup of coffee a month.
Yep.
It makes it's kind of a no-brainer, and there's something on there for everybody. I think it's really interesting. But they're announcing a lot of. We know they're doing a lot of original movies. They're doing a Love, Simon TV show,
Yes,
which I thought was really interesting, especially given that there is quite a lot of opposition, as Disney is seen as a family company. Disney gets a lot of flack when they do LGBTQ programming, or whether it's gay days at the Disney parks and stuff like that. There is quite a lot of kickback, and even when they did Muppets on ABC and it was a bit more adult, felt. A lot of people were like, this is a family company, we don't want this stuff. It'll be interesting to see whether with Disney Plus you will be able to do, if you didn't want your family to access Love, Simon, do parental controls on certain content and how they would do that.
Well, I think this is the backlash from the Fox 2000.
Yes.
So essentially, I think that's why they announced this.
Yeah.
I also, the gentleman who did Hate You Give is supposed to be doing Angie Thomas's next book and turning it into a movie, which also was under Fox 2000. My guess is, if they want to keep good graces, they're going to either move that over to whatever their studios they're going to release it to, or they're going to put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think that'll be really interesting to see, and I think there'll be a bit more of a scrabble when it comes to picking up content that's even produced. Obviously, Disney have their own plans, a lot of stuff spin off, but I think they'll be hunting out for original content, and I think Netflix might have to fight a bit harder for some of this stuff because at the moment it's Netflix and Amazon. Are the two, and people tend to go to Netflix because they've got the market share. But I think I think Disney's going to come up right quickly, stronger than I think the industry was predicting.
Oh, 100%
stronger.
The problem right now, what I think we're facing, and I think this is going, this next evolution of streaming services is going to be 100% the death of cable.
Yeah. I think so. I think so.
Because
still diehards for that, but
because it's just like everyone is doing this now.
Yeah.
Okay, so like now CBS All Access, DC,
HBO,
Apple, Netflix, Disney. Like it's just there's so many of them now.
Yeah.
I mean TBS has the app. I mean everyone has an app at this point.
And a lot of people kept cable, and I know I'm one of them. And we're about to cut the cable. I keep saying that a lot, but we are.
Cut the cord.
Because whenever I basically put it on, I'm like, oh my god! But I'm like, I don't watch most of it.
Yeah.
I'm paying a lot of money for not a lot of stuff that I watch. And it used to be the case that we don't go to things like those apps because, stuff would disappear or whatever, and there wasn't a PVR ability. But a lot of these, operators now, they're enabling you to record it in some way or store it. And so it makes it a lot easier to have the benefits of a PVR, the old VHS, and still have that.
The problem right now is that let's just say the basic DirecTV or the basic cable package is usually somewhere around $25 to $35, and you don't even get the movie channels and all that stuff.
Yep.
So essentially, the people who are always going to be locked into DirecTV and cable are going to be people who are into sports. That's the reason why it has survived as long as it has, because sports sell so much more than any other medium.
that's true.
That being said, when you look at people who, like myself, who doesn't watch sports, if you can spend $30, let's just say $30, and you can either have Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu for the same price as that, or you can have cable. Which one are you going to pick? And I think that's what's going to come down to at the end of the day is that they're going to look at having 2 or 3 services and the ones that they would watch most consistently.
Yeah. I think also there are some people, don't forget there are large areas of America where they don't have very strong or any broadband.
Right.
And I think a lot of people still rely on things like cable. It's a minority of the market,
yes,
but it's still a case. So a lot of people don't have the benefits of good streaming. I mean, even here in LA, sometimes my streaming, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is taking forever. And so it is frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so many factors, but I think Disney Plus are really coming out really strong from the gate, stronger than people predicted.
And all of the networks have their own stream. Is that
most
the case
do now?
Yeah. Okay.
They were lagging, and I think they realize now exactly how important that is. And they're going. Some people are going like, we can't do it on our own. It's very expensive. Let's team up with somebody. Let's piggyback their networks. Let's get together and do it. And I think we're going to see more of that in the next couple of years. I think we're going to see more bundling as well. Yeah. I honest to God think we're going to see more bundling. We've already seen a lot of telecoms companies like T-Mobile going, okay, fine, Netflix. You get free Netflix, you get this, you get the other. Some are like free Hulu, and I think we're going to see a lot more bundling. We're going to see a lot more of these companies getting in bed, and I think it's going to be that's the new cable.
Yeah,
that's the new cable.
That's what's gonna happen.
Even though a lot of people don't have TVs now these days, I see increasingly people are like, I don't have TV, I watch it on my laptop. I still like a TV.
I still like a TV.
I gotta have a TV.
Still
Blu-ray.
But you can plug your computer into your TV, which is what we do sometimes as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
A lot of people are talking about this, talking about pricing and obviously what you get. Janet James, we're going to move on to the what you mentioned, the Hollywood Egyptian Theatre in a second. Janet James, well, Simpsons could have gone to Hulu, but Hulu don't have the audience. They're growing, but they really don't have the audience right now. They admitted this quite recently. They are having massive growth, but it's still very, very small. Xeno Hour DC Universe is $7.99 monthly, or $74.99 yearly. The idea of a yearly membership is appealing to a lot of people. DC Universe app doesn't even have Smallville, Jack Dennis. Yeah, true. You'd be surprised that's not on there. Janet James saying most of Disney's risky stuff is on freeform, such as The Fosters. It is. And also Grownish and a number of other shows. Saying you'll note, if Disney Plus adds the entire Disney afternoon cartoons, including Darkwing Duck and Tailspin, fuck Netflix. Disney Plus is my woman for life. Okay.
Yeah.
Goof Troop. How about Goof Troop? Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
I know.
I am kind of
gummy
interested.
bears, gummy bears, bouncing here and there and everywhere.
And if Dimitri were here, he would agree with me. I want to see Now You See Him, Now You Don't again. You know, I want to see the old Kurt Russell live action movies.
Xeno Hour, I think cable is going to evolve into a service that bundles streaming services. Xfinity, for example, is offering Netflix in their packages. Yeah, but Xfinity is actually quite restricted. I'm not selling cable, but Xfinity, actually, some of their operating areas is quite restricted. They don't have the power that some others do. If Disney Plus plans to release their original content on digital services for purchase, then after a while I might cancel and buy individually. In the end, probably saves money, right? Question mark, Jack Dennis? I think we'll have to see how it's going to work out overall. There's a little bit of stuff that we still don't know. Janet James, love my Roku TV. I love my Roku TV and my Fire Stick. Sorry, I'm doing crap karaoke today. It's Fat Bloke Karaoke. DC patrons, I will pay $15 a month from Disney. We don't watch TV. I think I would pay. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I thought it was going to be $9.99 and then go up to $15. They're starting at $6.99. The only hurdle to this for Disney that I see is the fact that when you start too low, every time you raise it, people are like, "That's a 50% increase." That's a 100% increase. And it's like, well, shit doesn't come for free, as Janet Jackson once said. Oh, she said the best things in life for free. It's not Disney Plus, obviously. Although that's pretty good. It's
and
pretty
they will
good.
raise it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
We need to get to reviews and box office as well, but I want to touch on something you mentioned. Sorry, a lot of stuff we're not going to get to in the show. One thing I will touch on before we do this is Monsters, Inc. getting a Disney Plus series. Spoke to Billy Crystal about that tonight. I think he was happy about it. I mean, you never know, Billy Crystal. You know, he's a funny guy, but often funny people are quite deadpan about stuff. So he was like, thank you, and I congratulated him. Didn't have a lot to say. Beetlejuice sequel is finally dead. Was never really alive. After the show last week, the Suicide Squad sequel announced that they were dropping Deadshot, giving Idris Elba a new character instead. Very happy to see that.
Yes.
Great to see that Shazam sequel is bringing back the first film's writer. That is going to be good. Not entirely sure, where we're going to go with that, but I'm really, really pleased that Shazam is doing so well. And also Grease prequel, Summer Loving, gearing up at Paramount with writer John August. We don't need a Grease prequel. I don't care
we do
about
not.
that. We had High School
don't.
Musical. Let's not start aberizing everything.
Yeah.
No, but going back to Shazam, the sequel, I mean, that movie is still going strong.
It's amazing.
It's going to dominate the box office again this weekend. We'll get to box office in a minute. But seriously, that movie, I was not expecting a lot out of, and I told David about this last week, but I was really impressed. If you have not seen Shazam, take a chance. Take a chance. Seriously, this is DC doing it right.
Yeah,
doing it really right. It's a great movie. Take a chance
And
this weekend.
absolutely a sequel to this. I can totally see what, moving forward with that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Netflix plans to buy Hollywood's Egyptian theatre. Quote unquote, next step, world domination, according to Slash Film. I mean, no real surprise. We discussed this on the show a lot. Disney have the El Capitan in Hollywood. We knew that Netflix were going to buy some sort of property to start showing movies theatrically. They can take a lot of movies from their own run. They could potentially do deals to show other movies. Great location, or is it sacrilege? Kit, first on this.
Sacrilege? No, it's a great location. American Cinematique is the one who, and they hold their screening series there, and I guess they're going to sort of share it still. So like American Cinematique will still do some of their things on the weekend while Netflix will have it during the week. But yeah, I think it's a great move for Netflix. I mean, the thing is is it too limiting just to be here in Los Angeles? Should they think about, New York and, I mean, it's a way, I'm sure that's what they are thinking, is that probably they'll go spread out a little bit if this works. But yeah, I absolutely am on board with that. I mean, I think it's seeing Roma in the big screen really did help.
I didn't love that movie, but
So-
seeing it on the big screen, I 100% gave me more appreciation than I would have done
Exactly.
sitting at home on the
So I
sofa.
think it's smart for Netflix to do this.
Yeah. Scott, your thoughts
I
on this?
agree. I think, Netflix has been really struggling with this, and especially, we had Steven Spielberg come out and be very vocal about this, and then the whole Helen Mirren thing that happened at CinemaCon. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I think what's smart about this decision, and maybe people will disagree about this, is that you have to start in the markets where most of this stuff is going on and most of it's popular.
Yeah.
So you have to start New York and LA first to see how this is going to work. So
Then
if
maybe
you,
a Chicago.
right, you have to
Atlanta.
Austin, stuff
Yeah.
like that. You have to slowly build on this, because if they just went to say, like, I don't know, like Landmark or someone who has multiples. I think Landmark does have theaters all over the place because they bought the one in Philly. Like, if they went there and they said, "Hey, we want to buy one screen at all your theaters across the United States and see if it works." I feel like that's a really risky move, because if they're not getting the money back, they're going to lose all that on top of the money they're already losing because their prices aren't high enough. So I think starting here in LA and also probably doing another test run in New York, I think they should do it, back to back or side by side. They need to see if they can sell out screenings. And if they do, maybe think about slowly adapting, like we were just talking, into going to Austin or San Francisco, stuff of that nature.
I'm thinking as well, if Netflix have movie theaters, the majority of people use Netflix. I would say a chunk of that pay for their own subscriptions. There's a lot of sharing of accounts. If Netflix start owning theaters, do they start giving discounts to, like ArcLight do if you're an ArcLight member? If you're a Netflix customer, do you get like $2 off a movie theater ticket? And I think there are lots of other opportunities where they get a chance, certainly in LA, to do Q&As and really sell their programming and run like Bird Box for 2 weeks. But should they also show things that are non-Netflix owned products? What should they do because you can't just show Bright 8 times a day for 3 months until you get, or for a month until you get another movie. That isn't going to be financially viable, especially when you can.
The problem is, Simon, is that they release 3 movies a week now. You just don't know about it.
Yeah, no, literally,
Yeah.
they have so many.
They have
movies.
3 movies a week. So essentially, they can play those 3 movies that none of us have ever heard of.
In which case, you then have to get people out of their homes where they can already watch it. They paid for it to pay for it again on the big screen.
Right. And then the problem with this is, here's the problem with having it only in one location. The marketing budget, right?
Yeah.
How are you
Yeah.
going to market that movie to get people to go see that screening?
Yeah.
Because you need to have internet ads on YouTube. You need to have, the ads on Slash Film and Variety and all those things
Yeah.
on the sidebars, TV commercials. It's a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing to think about, because you can't really look at the El Capitan as the same thing, because essentially Disney movies play all across the country.
Yeah.
It's just that's the big theater that they own.
And they always do like a show.
Right.
beforehand.
And
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
the
like
guitar,
it's a nice
the piano and everything like that. It's a staple. So essentially, I mean, this is it's a risky movie either way, I feel like, because if they don't put enough money behind it,
Yeah.
how are they going to get people in that theater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these theaters, they make it, I mean, they're not expensive, and that is a very, very expensive piece of real estate.
Yes.
A lot of movie theaters make a lot more money on concessions than they do than anything else. That's really where their margins are. So if you want people to get off the sofa and you want them to come and watch it in a movie theater so that they buy popcorn, they buy soda, they buy this kind of thing, is that really the angle, that you get really cheap tickets to come into the movie theater, or no ticket at all? You basically are able to just go and see it, but you must buy concessions. Is that a possible thing? Doing packages and deals and buying in to seeing it, but not buying tickets in a traditional way.
But the still the bigger problem is, how are you going to sell something? So yes, everyone, if you put the Irishman in that theater,
Well, they're starting a
sell out.
magazine. They're starting a magazine.
I mean, they're just doing everything. I mean, I think at this point they're just trying to like grasp at straws.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out a solution to everything, because they're getting hit with so much criticism on one hand,
Yeah.
and then they have so much content that goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, what they did with Roma last year, and regardless of how anyone feels about that movie, like they should have waited to do that with The Irishman, because that at least was something that has a more dynamic appeal and people would see, and they can really test the waters. What's going on right now is I think they're really struggling because all these new streaming services are coming out.
Yeah.
They know competition is going to be heavy. They want to kind of be taken seriously as a major player in the industry, but yet they have so many movies that just don't go anywhere.
Yeah. A lot of people here are, talking. They have their own thoughts on what's going to happen with the Netflix thing. I think it's going to be really interesting. Again, with Disney Plus, we've seen that sort of, we've had a bit more information here eking out. I think we're going to see more about this. I like the idea. I do like the idea. There are certain movies that I think will work better on a big screen, and it's an interesting one to follow. Okay, we're going to move to box office and big films of the week. We've got 10 minutes left on the show. Come on, Star Wars, give us a trailer. Come on, throw us a bone, JJ. Lionsgate and Summit's release of Hellboy. 1.3 million in previews last night. Not great, not terrible. Universal's Little grossed 735 in previews. Not great. They don't have any figures. Box Office Mojo don't have any figures for Thursday night previews for the movie we got asked about after. But I would not. That at the moment, here's where that's placing, according to Box Office Mojo, in this week's Box Office Top 10. It's coming in at 9th. So it's between Captain Marvel and Best of Enemies with a take of around 4 million. So, to me, it's not the kind of movie that I think people rush down. We didn't get invited to any screenings for it.
Nope.
So, and I'm not seeing a lot of review action around it. So, I don't think that's going to be around for long, and I don't think it's going to make much of an impact. Certainly on Thursday nights, I don't think people would have been rushing to see that. We're looking at Shazam heading the box office this week. Hellboy's in second place. Shazam is going to pull in about 22.5, which is pretty good for another week. Third week? Second week. Hellboy, 16.5 million, and then third place Little, so 3 releases in the top, 16 million. Missing Link is predicted to come in fourth place with about 10. I'm seeing predictions of about 8 to 10. I think that's fair, but let's start talking about that one before we get to Hellboy. Very quickly, Missing Link, I saw, I did a review for IGN, I gave it an 8. I'm a Leica fan. I really enjoyed it. It's in my top 3 Leica movies. It's not their best work. We said at breakfast, for me, it's Kubo, then Paranorman, and then Missing Link. 3 great movies. If you haven't seen them, check them out.
Coraline, we love
your
Coraline.
thoughts on it? Yeah, Coraline's your guys' favorite.
I think Leica's in trouble. I think the marketing for this movie has been non-existent, and every single trailer bored me to tears. My wife Ashley Menzel, she loves these movies. She usually loves Leica movies. She saw the trailer and she says, I have zero interest in seeing that. Literally, when we went to the theater yesterday to see it, she's like, oh, I didn't know we were seeing this. And she was like, I wouldn't have came if we were going to see it. And I think the marketing for this movie is really bad. We saw it at Studio Movie Grill last night. There was 4 people in the theater. I don't foresee this one doing very well. Going off what you said, this is middle of the road for me for them. This is one step above Box Trolls. I feel like you can tell the budget has been slashed. There's this odd CGI kind of movement of the mouth that I feel has been very distracting.
It
kind
is
of
distracting.
Takes away from the beautifulness of stop motion animation. And I know Annapurna has it, and I just feel like they're starting to take on too many projects, and I don't think they have enough money to back everything.
I agree. The marketing on this has been poor.
It's been really poor.
I really think it's been very poor, and I think it's been completely swallowed up by a number of other movies. A lot about it I really liked. I really loved a lot of the characterization, the voices. I thought the script was very, very funny. A bit more adult than we've seen. Probably the most adult thing we've seen since Paranorman.
Yes.
It's got some really nice tones in there. I think it's very, very well done. I think the voice cast I was skeptical of. I think they do a really good job. Zach Galifianakis, I think, is great. I really enjoyed him as Link or Susan. A lot of really good jokes in there. And I'll be honest with you, I like the style because it mixes a lot of, aside from the mouths, which was very, very weird. It's a really interesting, and I wrote about this for IGN, it's a really mix of the kind of stuff we're used to from Leica, but there's a lot of stuff that for me was reminiscent of a lot of Eastern European animation styles, very sharp edges, and interesting movements that I think were reminiscent of stuff that was coming out of sort of, Bulgaria and Russia, up to and before the 1970s. So that really, from a stylistic thing, I kind of really liked. I know it won't be everyone's cup of tea, and I think the story is a little bit on the weak side, but I think the storytelling is actually done really well.
It's Arteman, right? Is that the one who does Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit?
Aardman, yeah.
Yeah, that's what this movie felt like to me.
Okay, interesting.
The characters,
I can see that.
The characters didn't have that same unique vibe to them. Like, they just look very basic and very generic. And I think that was the problem that I had with it. Like, if you look at Kubo or all the other movies, the characters had this very distinct look about them.
Yeah.
This just felt so generic in the characters. And then I will agree with you, though. I will say, as someone who is frequently annoyed by Zach Galifianakis, I actually thought he was the highlight of the voice cast, which says a lot considering it's Hugh Jackman and Zoe Saldana.
So my review is up on IGN if you want to check that out. Little is also out this week, a movie I didn't like. I found it very awkward. There are moments where I laughed hard. I cannot tell you why I laughed hard. It feels like a kind of a poor Big version. And I'll be honest with you, there are moments in there that genuinely made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too.
Interactions by the child in the movie. I did not like this. And it was a PG-13. There are a lot of people who took their kids to see this movie, and you could literally hear parents intaking breath. It was just not right for me. Just not right.
Yeah, it didn't set right for me either, unfortunately. And I just didn't think it was all that funny.
No.
I felt it was wasted talent because I think Issa Rae and Regina Hall are some of my favorites, and
not as funny as it thinks it is.
And Issa tried her best, though.
Yeah,
I think
she
she
does.
was the best part of it. And also the little girl.
Little girl
plays,
is great.
Yeah,
she's
good.
really good. She's
But-
great in Blackish.
Yeah, I just didn't connect with me at all. I just didn't think it was that funny, and I just thought it was too tropey and just too cliche and too silly.
The
Yeah.
problem for me was it was just too long. That's what really bothered me about the movie. I felt like it just overstayed its welcome. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, it's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's okay. Regina Hall has, unfortunately has a habit of playing these very similar characters, very similar to Taji P. Henson, where I feel like she's playing the same exact character over and over again.
Hollywood gives her the good thing every now and again and doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, and that's what she was the weakest element of the movie for me, because I thought the little girl was funny. I thought Issa Rae tried her best to make it work. Again, it's not a great movie, but I think matinee, maybe wait for Netflix kind of thing.
I would say so. Can we get a couple more minutes on the show, because I want to cover off Hellboy. So if we can get another 3 minutes, that would be great. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, so let's talk about Hellboy, probably the big movie of the week. Didn't do a lot of screenings for this. A lot of trailers have dropped. I thought the trailers, I was initially a little bit skeptical about this. I thought I'm going to give it support. Holy shit.
Yeah.
This is a horribly misconceived movie that is. It wants to be a lot of things and is really none of them well. Some moments in this, some of the effects look so unbelievably bad. It looks like it's a movie that's a Sci-Fi Channel movie or something that Asylum would make. It's appalling. Some of the scripting is absolutely terrible. Some of the performances are abysmal. Some of the accents are terrible. And Stephen Graham's Hog character looks worse than Bebop in the last Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It is so bad and unnecessarily gory. It's like they were like, we have nothing else to give you. We're going to give you some gory shit. That said, David Harbour as Hellboy actually does a really good job.
He does.
Ian McShane, I have no idea what you're doing with this movie.
Nope.
People are literally laughing at your performance, not in a good way. It seriously is it's such a disappointment. Kit, you saw this.
Oh my gosh, such a disappointment and just grotesque. I mean, I'm not against violence or gore or anything. I mean, when it's in its proper, milieu, then it works. But this just seems so gratuitous and just, there's a part where monsters are walking through the streets of London just tearing people apart. Like, you're literally watching that. I'm like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
And just. Yeah, David Harbour does his best. He does capture, I think, that Hellboy, character who is, tortured but also kind of quippy and a drunk. But they just didn't need to redo this. You know, the Guillermo del Toro movies were fine.
Yeah.
If you've probably read some online, there was lots of back and forth on the behind the scenes, people walking off the set, scripts being redone. So clearly that's why this movie sucks.
The script was terrible. It felt
was
like a
cut
lot
to
of scenes
pieces.
were being workshopped.
Yes.
Rather than actual final cut.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lionsgate clearly did not believe in this movie. I mean, you can tell, you know, from all the marketing, the fact that the first screening for this movie took place 3 days before the junket. There was a screening on the weekend before the movie opens. They just did not believe in this movie. And I mean, I was at CinemaCon when they did the presentation for Lionsgate, and you know, they had him come out for like 2 seconds, David Harbour, and that's it.
Oh, trailer for Star Wars is out.
Trailer for Star Wars is out. Okay, let's see if we can get it up and let's talk about it. Well, Scott, can you take care of that while I talk about Hellboy again?
Sure.
The problem is, I mean, Neil, who directed this, has done some great movies like Dog Soldier and The Descent. I mean, really effective movies.
Yeah.
This was not one of his finest hours at all. It was a really, really poor movie.
Yeah.
Genuinely, really, really disappointed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think everybody in this was underserved, and we can criticize them for their performances. But seriously, the accents were off, the script was terrible, the story was not that great. And Mila, who, you know, when she does something that's great, she's really great. But so much of the stuff she's doing is far beyond her skill set and her abilities. And I think she was really horribly underserved. It felt like an identikit performance for her.
Yeah.
It reminded me of movies like Blood Rain and stuff like that.
You will yell at the screen too. I mean,
Yeah.
a couple of times you're yelling at the screen, going, "What?" You know, it's just
Such a shame. And I know
such a
sometimes,
shame.
even when, you know, sets have troubled circumstances, you can manage to get through it and come out with some kind of good movie. But this was definitely not that. It's a horrible missed opportunity. So
Yeah.
Hellboy, very surprised they didn't just shove it to Netflix.
All right, so the name of the movie is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Interesting. So no Rebel in
no
there.
Rebel.
The Rise of
No.
Skywalker.
Yep, and
Rise
I'm
of
trying to find the trailer. Who would have tweeted it?
It's not online.
It's not online
It's
yet.
not online yet. Okay, well,
Let's see.
the rise of Skywalker is, I mean, it's not an entirely, you know, surprise that is there, because there has been the folklore that one of these people is part of the Skywalker
That's correct.
dynasty. Obviously, Mark Hamill's character has been, you know, very present in the movies. The first one was right at the end. That was a classic moment of Force Awakens.
Found the trailer.
You found the trailer? Let's
right,
watch
sick.
that. Okay, going to move into the middle, so let's give our reaction to the Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker, which has just been unveiled at Star Wars Celebrations. Okay, so starting off with the Lucasfilm intro font there.
And there's Rey in the
Rey's,
desert.
yeah. Looking a little bit anxious or upset. Don't cry, Rey. It'll be okay.
She's taking deep breaths.
She's had a busy day.
On all we know.
Lightsaber.
1,000 generations live in you now.
Interesting.
But this is your fight.
This is her fight. Every generation has a legend. Legend. You can't have a leg end without a leg beginning.
Sweeping shot.
Sweeping shots. Any lens flare yet from JJ? Oh, there you go. Hello.
Oh, she's getting ready to battle, man. Something's coming at her.
Driving gloves, always sensible.
Is it Kylo?
Those are running shoes if ever I saw them.
And she's gonna
Here she
run. And she runs,
comes.
and she. Oh,
Hello,
it's
this is
a
your room has now
starfighter.
arrived. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
This Christmas.
That kind of gave me chills.
Is it a Christmas movie like Die Hard? I don't know. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there's
Kylo Ren.
Kylo.
There he is. Safe in. BB-8. What's up, BB?
Chewie.
Ah, Lando
Lando.
Calrissian. The saga comes to an end. So a lot of classic figures already in there. There's C-3PO. That's some freebies you get at the junkets. Oh, a lens flare there with Leia hug. Ooh.
It's never really gone.
Death Star. That's a chunk of the Death Star, right?
Is that a chunk?
And it features the Joker, which is good. So it looks like finally we have a crossover from DC and Disney. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker,
Rise of Skywalker.
December.
Wow.
Yeah.
There
Wow,
was
that's
there
very
was
impressive.
There was a shot of Carrie Fisher in there, so they've
There you go.
Yeah.
been able
Well, we
to...
did know that. Obviously, we thought
Not
that Carrie
flying
Fisher.
in space.
We know, yes, not flying in space. She obviously got an Uber back. Now we know, obviously, that that movie was, going to be. It's the end of a saga, so we're not surprised to see many of those legacy characters in there. Your thoughts, your initial reaction on that? What are the feels that you're getting from that? And then we're going to end the show.
It gave me a little bit of goosebumps, I have to admit. I mean, like I said, we've all said, this is not necessarily our favorite nostalgia, but I definitely felt something with that one.
Yeah.
I liked that opening sequence there where she's jumping in the back, she's gonna kill somebody in that starfighter. What are the TIE fighters?
TIE fighter.
TIE fighters. Yeah, lots of images. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Scott, we've got to wrap the show, but very quickly.
Sure. Yeah, it looks like a continuation from the last two movies. It's banking again on nostalgia.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that already. I mean, putting all these characters in there. I hope Ray gets something to do in this movie. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like she's very busy from
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But like you, Kit, obviously, I mean, that gave me goosebumps in the way that I haven't had goosebumps for a Star Wars trailer since Force Awakens.
Right.
Very excited to see this. We're going to be saying a lot of goodbyes in that movie. So I strongly recommend you take a box of tissues for crying.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, for crying people.
There's no crying in Star
There's no
Wars.
cry. If you cry in space, no one can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up the show. Scott, welcome back. Who are you? Where can we find you,
Sure,
please?
Scott Menzel. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the other Scott M.
Kit.
The Movie Kid on Twitter, so follow me there.
My name is Simon Thompson at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching the show. Follow the show on @MeetMoviePress, and please, we are continuing to grow and we really appreciate your support. Tell everybody about the show, and yes, I know the laugh at the end of the trailer was the Emperor. It wasn't the Joker. That was a joke. I do appreciate it. Have a good week. Watch some movies. If you're going to watch something this week, support Shazam or Missing Link, because everything else is a little bit meh. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.